Craig Unger, American Kompromat, How the KGB Recruited Donald Trump, and Other Tales of Sex, Greed, and Money. In American Kompromat, author Craig Unger sheds light on the labyrinthine world of clandestine relationships among Donald Trump, the KGB, and the Russian mob, while revealing stunning revelations about secret alliances that go far deeper than anyone could have imagined. Gain insights into the KGB's strategy of grooming and exploiting Trump's personality and desires, and understand how Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking operation led to a massive collection of kompromat. Delve into Opus Day's infiltration of the US government and the authoritarian ideals that granted Trump extraordinary power.
KGB's intrigue with Trump. In the late 1970s, Manhattan was home to an unassuming electronics store named Joylud, which catered to a niche clientele composed mainly of Soviet diplomats, KGB officers, and Politburo members. The store owners were Soviet émigrés, and the shop boasted TVs that met specifications required for use within the USSR. Among Joylud's clientele was Donald Trump. Semyon Kislin, one of the owners, began targeting Trump, as Kislin was most likely a spotter agent for the KGB. This involved identifying potential recruits for the KGB and reporting back to their handlers. As Trump worked on converting a hotel into the Grand Hyatt New York around 1980, he purchased hundreds of TVs from Joylud on credit, an unexpected move considering the store's willingness to sell in bulk and on credit. Kislin reported the sale to the KGB, establishing contact and opening the door for cultivating Trump as a potential asset. Exploiting Trump's desires. Donald Trump's connection with the Russian mob traces back to the 1970s when the Soviet mafia was emerging in New York City. As Trump developed his business, he formed ties with the mafia, selling them luxury condos for their money laundering schemes, potentially indebting himself to them. In the mid-80s, the KGB seized an opportunity when Trump started showing interest in nuclear arms, driven by his desire for power, intellectual validation, and a spot on the world stage. With plans to construct a Trump Tower in Moscow, the KGB began manipulating Trump during his visit to the city. Upon his return to New York, Trump started pushing KGB talking points, celebrating in the Soviet intelligence community as a successful operation. While it's improbable that the Kremlin planned to make Trump their puppet in America's highest office, they viewed him as a useful idiot who would do favors for them without explicit involvement. Epstein's Kompromat Powerhouse. Jeffrey Epstein, infamous for his sex trafficking operation, turned from a man of humble beginnings into a multimillionaire with influential friends and connections. Owning a private island in the Caribbean, Epstein coerced countless women into performing sexual acts for him and his guests, often without their knowledge or consent. Seeking to benefit from his guests' depravity, Epstein allegedly recorded these acts, accumulating a mass of kompromat against powerful figures. The key message lies in the unknown whereabouts and potential impact of these illicit recordings on the global power balance. Growing up in working-class Coney Island, Epstein's father was employed at a municipal parks department. Fast forward to the end of his life, he accumulated immense wealth and friends that included royalty, heads of state, billionaires, and celebrities. One of the most sinister aspects of Epstein's life was his private island, Little St. James, sometimes referred to as Little St. Jeff's, where many women and girls were manipulated and abused. As Epstein's criminal behavior was exposed, attention shifted to his infamous Black Book, which contained around 1,500 names of people with ties to him. To this day, it is unclear which associates were aware of or participated in Epstein's depraved activities. One potential clue came from his house manager, Alfredo Rodriguez, who identified certain names as witnesses. Among those names was Donald Trump, though having his name circled doesn't prove guilt or knowledge of Epstein's crimes. The alleged stash of recordings from Epstein's private island raises urgent questions about its whereabouts and implications. Some speculate that police officer John Mark Dugan, who had access to Epstein's West Palm Beach mansion and potential ties to the Russian Security Service, FSB, may have taken the kompromat. If this theory holds true, the unimaginable power afforded by these recordings may sit with Russia, leaving the world to question the possible consequences and unraveling of global power dynamics. Opus Dei's covert influence. Opus Dei, a Catholic sect, appears harmless on the surface, promoting holiness through daily life. However, its dark origins and ties to authoritarianism are alarming. Founded by Josemaria Escriva, a supporter of Spain's fascist leader Francisco Franco, the organization infiltrated the Spanish government and later turned its focus to the United States. Targeting the judiciary, Opus Dei aimed to place conservative judges, including in the Supreme Court, to counter the influence of progressives on issues like birth control, abortion, and gay marriage. Joining forces with the powerful Federalist Society, the group shaped legal policies under a veil of right-wing, authoritative theology. Ultimately, Opus Dei's theocratic ambitions benefited from Trump-appointed judges, receiving tacit approval from the Supreme Court itself. While Opus Dei may seem like just another Catholic sect, advocating everyday holiness through work, family, and social activities, there is a darker truth hidden behind its facade. The organization was built upon authoritarian foundations, with its founder, Josemaria Escriva, supporting Spain's fascist leader, Francisco Franco. Throughout the late 1930s and 40s, Escriva gained considerable influence, using it for recruiting high-profile Spanish families into Opus Dei and securing powerful roles within the government. Later, Opus Dei shifted its attention towards the United States, aiming to shape the judicial system similarly to its efforts in Spain. The sect's followers saw the American left as victors in the ongoing culture wars, particularly regarding progressive standpoints on birth control, abortion, and gay marriage. In response, Opus Dei sought to install conservative judges who would counter these advancements through legal means. However, the organization's vision went beyond mere judicial influence. It aspired to establish an authoritarian society driven by its theological values. This form of governance would resemble Opus Dei's own structure, with members entirely submissive to authority, their reading materials restricted, and physical self-discipline enforced. To make this goal more appealing to the public, right-wing lawyers and politicians were engaged to adopt legal language veiling the sect's theocratic inclinations. To expand its reach, Opus Dei partnered with the Federalist Society, a massive conservative and libertarian lobby with around 70,000 members, including 7 past or present Supreme Court justices. As it happens, several of these justices were chosen by Trump, thereby aligning the rule of law with his interests. In turn, the Supreme Court offered a potential endorsement for Opus Dei's goals, further strengthening the sect's hidden influence on American society. Barr's authoritarian push. Bill Barr, one of Trump's attorney generals, held firm beliefs in the concept of a unitary executive, interpreting it to give unlimited power to the president without Congress's approval. His ideals, which resonated with the authoritarian principles of Opus Dei, led him to defend Trump's actions and significantly expand the latter's power. Barr played a crucial role in discrediting the Russia investigation, eventually gaining even more authority and stripping intelligence agencies of their control over certain information. Since his teenage years, Bill Barr was intrigued by the scope of authority the U.S. Constitution granted to the president. He developed a belief in a radical interpretation of the unitary executive, a doctrine within the Constitution which Barr viewed as giving the president virtually endless power to act without congressional consent. While Opus Dei, a secretive and authoritarian Catholic organization, denies Barr's direct involvement, evidence exists that suggests strong ties between the two, such as his connections to Opus Dei-affiliated individuals and organizations. Barr's fusion of Catholic and constitutional authoritarianism provided a potent concoction that shaped his tenure as Trump's Attorney General. During Trump's presidency, Barr consistently defended him, facilitating numerous power abuses. A prime example was when he argued in favor of Trump firing FBI Director James Comey amid an investigation into Russia's ties to the Trump campaign. In Barr's perspective, even examining the firing would restrict the president's authority over government agencies. Following the release of the Mueller report, which investigated the relationship between Trump's campaign and Russia, Barr provided a misleading summary filled with disinformation. This enabled Trump to discredit the entire Russia investigation, labeling it fake news and a hoax. As a result of his loyal service, Trump bestowed Barr with additional powers, such as the authority to declassify government secrets concerning the Russia investigation. This move stripped intelligence agencies of their capacity to manage information and further enlarged the executive's authority, precisely what Barr had always envisioned. Trump's unsettling Russian ties. The shocking revelation that Russia may have offered bounties to the Taliban for killing American troops went unaddressed by President Trump, despite having information on it in intelligence briefings. This was not an isolated incident, as Trump's actions throughout his presidency consistently appeared to benefit Russia while harming America. From diminishing support for Ukraine in the 2016 GOP convention to undermining NATO, these actions hint at more than a political preference, raising the possibility of Trump being a Russian asset. On June 26, 2020, news broke that Russia had allegedly offered bounties to the Taliban for killing American soldiers. Although it was uncertain whether any soldiers were actually killed in this scheme, the intelligence briefings on the situation had been available to President Trump since February 2020. Yet, he did nothing. This pattern persisted, as Trump's presidency was marked by numerous instances of inexplicable favoritism towards Russia, often at America's expense. Trump's Russian overtures started before his presidency, most notably when his team modified the Republican platform on Ukraine during the 2016 GOP convention. This change, which weakened support for Ukraine, foreshadowed the ways Trump would aid Russia during his term. One such example occurred in December 2018, when Trump announced the withdrawal of all American troops from Syria. This decision benefited Russia's ally, Assad, but abandoned the US's Kurdish allies. Furthermore, Trump's repeated criticisms of NATO and his expressed desire to withdraw from the alliance aligned with Putin's goal to weaken it. Even French President Emmanuel Macron said the US was turning its back on Europe. In other situations, Trump seemed to acquiesce to Putin, cover for Russia, or shift blame to other nations. The question then arises, why did Trump act in such a manner? The author posits a striking explanation: Trump may have been a Russian asset. Whether knowingly or not, the Russians, armed with compromising information, might have effectively owned him.
The entangled web of relationships between Donald Trump, the KGB, and the Russian mob exposes the alarming extent to which Russia succeeded in cultivating and manipulating a world leader. Trump's presidency saw a series of decisions that notably served Russian interests at the expense of the United States. From collusion with the Russian mob to potentially being influenced by Kompromat from Epstein, Trump's loyalty to Russia seems to go far deeper than expected. Finally, Opus Dei's influence on shaping a theocratic authoritarian regime in the United States helps illustrate the complex and troubling dynamics at play in recent political history.